start with this Madison Square Garden story, because this is oh boy, a doozy. So I'm pretty sure many of you have probably heard by now, right? So Donald Trump had a rally at Madison Square Garden. He filled Madison Square Garden. As if you live in New York, I'm sure you probably know that Madison Square Garden is not an easy venue to fill, but he was able to do that. And there was some controversy that took place at that Trump rally. First and foremost, I want to say one big thing. The fact that he was able to fill Madison Square Garden could possibly mean there is some type of political realignment. Now, of course, not everyone at that rally is from New York or lives in New York, but there were quite a bit of New Yorkers that were there. I watched videos and I heard the New York accent. I know, okay. So I heard the accent, so I can see that here. And even Jake Tapper is admitting that there could be a possible realignment. Check this out.
This largely issues-focused messaging from Trump's 2024 campaign operation is one of the reasons why this race is so competitive. A professional campaign appeals to a multiracial coalition focusing on issues where Trump polls better than Harris, immigration, the economy. And we saw some evidence of a political realignment with the very fact that yesterday Trump was able to fill the 20,000 or so seats at Madison Square Garden in Manhattan for his campaign rally. It's a feat that likely no other Republican presidential candidate would have been able to pull off, not in the...
No other presidential candidate would have been able to pull this off present day, right? So I have noticed, because I've been looking at the data, and it does seem like Donald Trump seems to be getting more support in some of these blue areas like New York, also New Jersey. Now, it doesn't mean that New York is going to turn red, but there is some type of political shift that is happening. And in particular, at that particular rally, there was a couple of jokes that were made by Tony Hinchcliffe, who apparently, I think this was not the event to do that, right? At a political rally, your goal is to win people over. You're trying to pull people to your side to get votes. You don't want to push people away. And so for those who are not aware, Tony Hinchcliffe, the very first time I saw this comedian was during the Tom Brady roast. And the roast is funny. You guys got to watch it. I'm a Patriots fan, but I'm telling you, even as a Patriots fan, they grilled Tom Brady's ass. I could not help but laugh. It was hilarious, right? But I think the difference between that and this is that at a roast, that type of comedy is different and also expected. The type of humor that you hear at those roasts tends to be pretty raunchy, just keeping it real. But at a political rally, does it have its place there? So we're going to get into some of the things that Tony Hinchcliffe said that a lot of people are up in arms about, but is it everybody? And then you're going to get to hear from some of the people, in particular, those who are Puerto Rican who were at the rally as well. Listen to this.
All right. Heck yeah. It's a cool black guy with a thing on his head. What the hell is that? A lampshade? Look at this guy. Oh my goodness. Wow. I'm just kidding. That's one of my buddies. He had a Halloween party last night. We had fun. We carved watermelons together. It was awesome. Believe it or not, people, I welcome migrants to the United States of America with open arms. And by open arms, I mean like this. It's wild. And these Latinos, they love making babies too. Just know that. They do. They do. There's no pulling out. They don't do that. They come inside, just like they did to our country.
Yeah. So obviously, as you guys know, that hit a nerve with a lot of people, not just people that were Puerto Rican. And what was interesting to me, though, is that for all the people that are criticizing the Latino comments, I didn't hear people, as The women of The View are doing this too. I didn't hear people criticize the comments that he made about Black people. So that's just something that I did notice. Tony Hinchcliffe, again, is a comedian. Again, I've seen that same style of comedy during the Tom Brady roast. Same type of jokes. He made jokes about black people. He made jokes about like different races, like again, and everybody was laughing. But again, I think a roast is different from a political rally because you don't want to turn people away, especially considering some of these swing states, how close it appears to be. You definitely don't want to do that. Donald Trump right now is beating Kamala Harris with the Latino vote, but there have been a number that have come forward since this event and are heavily trying to mobilize Latino voters that maybe were not going to vote to come out against Donald Trump because of what was said at the rally. Now, here's the thing. Donald Trump did make those comments. Tony Hinchcliffe did, but what people are saying is that Trump did not come forward and dismiss those comments. But from what I read recently, apparently his campaign is trying to distance itself from Tony. So that in itself ought to tell you something. Now, before I show you what some people said about, the rhetoric that was there and how they were very much against it, there actually is a video here of a couple of rally attendees that are Puerto Rican. So they were there at Madison Square Garden. And I want you to hear what they had to say about the comments.
Live from the garden.
The rally was great.
Puerto Ricans for Trump. Trump 2024.
Yo, now that I got my fellow Puerto Ricans, obviously what happened there tonight, everybody's talking
Beautiful,
about it.
epic.
But the Puerto Rican joke, the garbage island stuff. Do you guys even give a fuck about that?
No, I don't. No, I don't. I don't even pay a mind. I don't even pay attention to it.
I don't. Puerto Ricans for Trump. Lock in. Stay locked. Stay locked in on the go. Y'all already know, my boy. I told you guys. So.
Yeah, so you guys see that, like, not everybody feels that way, and they were there. Also, another thing that I noticed, and I think people really need to take this rhetoric back. The number of people that I heard saying that this was like a Nazi rally, that is not what I saw. There was one guy that was on stage, and this was, he probably shouldn't have said this either. I think this was in poor taste, that did appear on the stage and said, oh, look, I'm at the Nazi rally or whatever. It was supposed to be a joke, but he shouldn't have said that because now, of course, corporate media is using that as proof. Like, look, see, we told you it was a Nazi rally. They're comparing it to a Nazi rally that happened at Madison Square Garden decades ago. But that's not what it was. There were black people there. There were obviously Puerto Ricans there. As you can see, there were people of all different races at that rally at Madison Square Garden. So again, I think this is corporate media trying to find a way to vilify Donald Trump because he's doing so well. And we'll get to that tonight. Because he is doing so well, let's bring up the race thing. Let's bring in this and let's show, oh, it's a Nazi rally. And that is not what I saw. And I don't support Trump either, but based on the videos that I saw, that is not what I saw. So I think the exaggerations are not going to help Kamala Harris's campaign, but you can bet she's using those comments that Tony made and is trying to milk it. And also there's Chuck Roka. Chuck Roka, for those who don't remember, he was a part of the Bernie campaign. He is also speaking out about this, and he is trying to energize Puerto Ricans in Pennsylvania. Now, you have to remember, I believe there's almost 460,000 Puerto Rican Americans that live in Pennsylvania. This is a state that both Kamala Harris and Donald Trump are fighting for. So keep that in mind.
Look, I've been doing this a long time, and normally everybody says everything's all baked in. You know what you get. Oh, Chuck, you Democrats can't take a joke. I think last night could have cost him this election, and let me tell you why. I've been doing this for 35 years. I'm not paid to be pretty on TV. I'm paid to win elections, and what that meant last night was Puerto Ricans are a very prideful people. There's 600,000 of them in Pennsylvania. Will this mean that all of them run to Kamala Harris? No, but I'll tell you what. Last night there was a group of Latinos that got together and said enough is enough, and this morning as Puerto Ricans are waking up in Pennsylvania, this video was on their cell phones because Democratic operatives, including me, Nuestro PAC, and a bunch of other folks said, enough with it being baked in. Let's remind people about how they really feel about our community. And when you have that many Puerto Ricans, not only in Pennsylvania, but in 4 marginal congressional districts in New York, I think this could really hurt him.
Yeah, and there's no guarantee that all of those Puerto Ricans in Pennsylvania are going to say, okay, I'm going to come out and vote for Kamala now. There's no guarantee that's going to happen. I actually don't think that's going to happen. But what it could have done was energize those who were not going to vote at all into coming out and voting. So that's another thing. And also I want to say this. This is why speeches should be vetted. Because this is the risk that you run when you allow people to come give a speech and you haven't looked at, no one has looked at the speech in the campaign at all. That is the risk that you take with that. But I noticed something else as well, because, you know, the women on The View, of course, Sunny Hostin and Anna Navarro used this as their moment to come forward and just say, oh, let me tell you something, Mr. Trump. Let me tell you something. Because I'm Latina and da da da. And what was very interesting to me, again, we want to bring up this point. Sunny Hostin, who is Black and Puerto Rican, I noticed that she took to the Latino comments, but didn't say anything about the comments that were made about Black people. So this is just something that was very telling to me, something I've been paying attention to. Another thing that was very telling, people were more upset about the comedian's comments about Latino people, but they weren't that upset about genocide. Morning Joe, the women on The View, they were more upset about a comedian making jokes about the Latino community at Trump's rally than they were about genocide. Where was this same type of energy and anger about the kids that are being killed in Gaza, in the West Bank, in Lebanon? Where was that same anger? Where was that same energy, ladies and gentlemen? Where was it? You know, Colin points this out. Colin from Indie News Network. May I remind you, all that while people are pearl clutching over a racist trope at a Trump rally, that the Dems are complicit in a fucking genocide. Newsflash, liberals are just as racist as Republicans. They are just smart enough to keep their mouth shut. So you see what I mean? These are the kind of things that I pay attention to, you know, and as someone that is independent media, it is my job to show you what corporate media is leaving out. It is my job to show you what corporate media won't say to your face. So they are more upset about that than they are about a genocide. And apparently they were also more upset about that than they were about the statement that Rudy Giuliani made. Listen to this.
September 11 was our darkest hour. October 7 was Israel's darkest hour. They are our best friend. I worked for Ronald Reagan for 8 years. Ronald Reagan said, we have to be there for Israel always because they are always there for us. Hamas is not there for us. Iran is not there for us. They want to kill us. And the Palestinians are taught to kill us at 2 years old. They won't.
Everybody hearing this?
Let a Palestinian in Jordan. They won't let a Palestinian in Egypt.
Who's going to tell Rudy Giuliani that Palestinians do live in Jordan and Egypt? Who's going to tell him this? The Queen of Jordan is Palestinian. There are Palestinian refugees in Egypt as well. Why isn't Sunny Hostin more upset about this?
And Harris wants to bring them to you. They may have good people. I'm sorry, I don't take a risk with people that are taught to kill Americans at 2.
When are Palestinians taught to kill Americans? So this is dangerous rhetoric. And so this is my thing again. They were more upset about the joke that was made about Latinos. And by the way, not all the other racial groups that Tony also made fun of. Just the ones about the Latinos. And that's probably because Donald Trump is ahead of Kamala Harris with the Latino vote. We got to start putting 2 and 2 together, folks. Where was this outrage towards what Rudy Giuliani said at this rally? Where was that outrage? Palestinians are taught to hate and kill Americans at the age of 2. There was no outrage. You know why? Because it's not working politically. They had to show that they had that outrage towards the Latino vote because Kamala Harris is losing the Latino vote. This is why they didn't have the outrage towards the jokes that he made about Black people. She's not losing. She's ahead of Donald Trump with the Black vote. She may be behind some of her predecessors, but she's still ahead of Donald Trump with the black vote. And they damn sure ain't going to bring up the things that were said about Palestinian people, even though Kamala Harris is struggling with the Muslim vote right now. Now, what's interesting is check this. Just in, Puerto Rico Senator Zarada Buxo is endorsing Donald Trump today in Allentown, Pennsylvania. So I guess what I'm saying is that is the outrage overplayed? Is this corporate media once again trying to make you feel that more people are angry than they actually are? We got to ask. We have to ask these questions.